Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Osoyoos regular open council meeting, Tuesday, July 21st, 2026 at 2 p.m. in council chambers. So we will first of all look for the approval of the agenda. And are there any late items? No, thank you. We have the approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Bennett, Councillor Cheong, all in favor. Thank you. And the regular open minutes from June the 23rd. We need those adopted, please. Councillor King, Councillor Poderica, all in favor. Thank you. And correspondence. We have received a letter on voluntary and involuntary complex care received from the SILGA, Southern Interior Local Government Association, and it was from Bill Sarai, who's the president, and I think he spoke for all of us. I'm not sure whether anybody had anything to add to this or not. We're okay. It's in the minutes. And so we will now look at staff reports. And the first one is the development variance permit application for 8 Chardonnay Court. And I will ask Ms. Duong to give us a report, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do have a presentation to go with this one. All right. So yes, this is a development variance permit application which involves the property at 8 Chardonnay Court. The official community plan designation that applies to this property is low density residential, and the associated zoning is small scale multi-unit residential, or RS1. This parcel is 477 square meters in size and is understood to contain a single detached dwelling with a secondary suite. So just a bit of background on this one. This application does follow a series of preceding applications that have been received by the town. Specifically, back in June 2025, the property owner did apply to the town for a business license to undertake a bed and breakfast operation within the single detached dwelling on the property. Now, when staff reviewed this application, it was found that there was a secondary suite located within the home, and it was further discovered at that point that the suite was constructed without the necessary building permit. So after being advised of this, the property owner withdrew their business license application and then submitted a building permit application to the town in order to formalize that 1-bedroom suite. An assessment was undertaken to confirm whether the secondary suite did meet zoning requirements at the time. And that assessment did find that the proposal did not meet all the applicable requirements of the zoning bylaw. Specifically, it was noted that the length of the parking space that was to be provided for the secondary suite would need to be varied. So the town zoning bylaw requires the provision of off-street parking, of course, for single detached dwellings and secondary suites. Now, for both of these uses, 1 parking space is required per dwelling unit. So in total, we would require 2 parking spaces on this property. The zoning bylaw also requires that when parking is required, it has to be located on the same parcel as the building or use that it serves. So on top of that, all the parking spaces are also required to meet minimum parking space dimensions, which are set out in the bylaw to be for standard parking spaces, 2.7 meters in width, 6 meters in length, and 2.2 meters in height. So in this case, while the property owner did want to provide parking for the secondary suite within the driveway of the property, it was noted when reviewing the site plans that that driveway, as it exists specifically within the boundaries of the property, the length of the driveway ranges from approximately 4.36 meters to 4.53 meters in length, which does not meet that minimum parking space length requirement per the zoning bylaw. So with that in mind, this application does request a reduction in the minimum off-street parking requirements for a secondary suite, such that it would be going from 1 per dwelling unit to 0. So when we're considering really any type of variance, but for off-street parking requirements, it's really important to note why those zoning regulations exist in the first place. So for off-street vehicle parking, this is required predominantly as a means of ensuring that there's adequate on-site parking to support the planned use of the property, and that public spaces such as public street parking aren't necessarily supporting private uses. So this ultimately acts to avoid conflicts resulting from inadequate site parking being provided. So with this in mind, it is expected that property owners provide the parking that is necessary for use on a property. that it's intended to be carried out on. So as mentioned, the property does have a driveway. However, it is only sited partially within the property boundaries, and part of the driveway also then extends onto the road right of way on Chardonnay Court. And the portion that's within the property is not long enough to accommodate the full length of the parking stall that is required. Also, we do know that the garage is understood to be a double car garage, but with that in mind, the width of the door is actually not wide enough to necessarily provide for unobstructed access in and out of the garage, such that 2 parking stalls could move. So really we'd be looking at a requirement of the door to be 5.4 meters in width, and it is not meeting that width. It is important to note, though, if you look at the existing development pattern along Chardonnay Court, really most of the properties that have been developed in a really similar fashion to the way that the subject property is developed, where you have driveways that have been built into the road right of way, and the homes are actually built fairly close to the front parcel line, so they have a reduced parcel line, that a setback from the front parcel line. So in this regard, most of the properties along Chardonnay Court would actually also have similarly limited space to park within their driveways on their properties. So this is of course recognized then to pose challenges in consideration of the implementation and delivery of small scale multi-unit housing for those parcels that are already developed to a single family home. It would really limit the ability to add a secondary suite within those homes if parking is unable to be accommodated within a garage. But given the established pattern of development along the street, we are concerned that the approval of the application could trigger potentially similar applications then moving forward to reduce parking requirements in the future. So if multiple parking reductions are provided for within this relatively small area, this can result in cumulative impacts if parking is being accommodated on the street, which can then exacerbate any conflicts between neighbors. Lastly, we do see that the applicant does have other options available to resolve the parking deficiency, including to decommission the suite or alter the existing building in such a way that it can accommodate the required parking. And should council be supportive of the application and the development variance permit is issued, it's important to note that the variance is just removing the minimum parking requirement. It doesn't necessarily prevent a property owner from being able to park within their garage. It doesn't necessarily stop them from parking within their driveway. However, there is of course the concern that there's going to be partial encroachments into the road right of way just due to the average length of vehicles. But ultimately, this remains an issue regardless of whether the variance is issued or not. So we are seeking council's direction with respect to this development variance permit, specifically as to whether or not to approve the permit. And for the reasons previously stated, we are recommending that it be denied at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duong. I understand that the agent for the applicant, Ms. McKay, is here and would like to speak. And do you please come forward, Ms. McKay? You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mayor McCordoff. Do I have to hold the mic down the entire time?
Yep.
Oh, isn't that great? Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. Thank you for your time today and the opportunity to speak on behalf of my my client. I also want to make a special thank you to Shannon Duong, the planner. She did an excellent job on the report. It was fabulous, thorough, and also touched on the rationale that I provided in my application to the town on behalf of the homeowner. So again, I'm here on behalf of the owner at Chardonnay Court, and I wanted to speak specifically to demonstrate how the variance aligns with the province's vision for gentle housing density and completely preserves the neighborhood and the streetscape. So no changes to the physical footprint of the home are required to authorize this suite that existed at the time my client purchased the home, which is another interesting aspect. But under this zone, of course, the secondary suite is a fully permitted allowable use, and we are capable of accommodating all the required resident, tenant, and parking either within the garage or on the driveway. Because of the property's design, of course, every vehicle will park completely full, clear of the sidewalk. That is to say that pedestrian safety and sidewalk accessibility will be maintained 100% and uncompromised. So this isn't council's first time to discuss parking. depths and widths, and I've followed your discussions over the last several months because you've, of course, publicly recognized that the average vehicles driven in by Osoyoos families are either standard pickups or SUVs. And, you know, we're sort of caught in that same challenge with respect to this particular development, which of course preceded the current zoning bylaw through and was developed through a building scheme. So that is how the setbacks became to be 4.5 meters, as this particular neighborhood was developed within a building scheme. Interestingly enough, the only two vehicles that would fit in that driveway as it sits right now is the Fiat 500e and the Mini 3-door, which is 3.85 meters. So there are no vehicles that I know of that people drive in this town that would actually fit within that 4.5 meter setback. Of course, now that's now reduced to 3 meters with the RS1 zone. And I think you're going to see this problem continue to surface unless, of course, it's addressed at time of building permit application. And I do note that the building department here did have a local developer accommodate the 6 meter setback to allow for a suite. So it is being done now, but that still does not help my client or others that have an existing home that want to exercise their opportunity to have a secondary suite. So the single detached dwelling and the proposed formalization of the secondary suite requires the 2 off-street parking spaces in total. We believe that we can accommodate all of those uses on the site. I recognize that the neighbors are concerned about street parking in the area. It's a valid concern. It's a narrow roadway. One of the things to note that the Town of Osoyoos traffic bylaw 1256 does not allow parking within 2 meters of a driveway. So it'd be very difficult, as pointed out in the aerial that photograph that Shannon provided here, that there's very limited opportunity to park on that street. So it is certainly something that my client is aware of. They have no intention of allowing their tenant to park on the street. They are really just wanting to formalize a suite that they believed was an allowable use and that it was properly permitted when they purchased the home last year. I recognize also that this isn't a unique situation. Recently, Vancouver, Saanich, Kelowna, Fort St. John, the RDOS, of course, and Kitimat-Stikine communities of Terrace and Rosswood are also battling the imposition of these formalized zoning bylaws following you know, their attempt to align with the provincial intent of Bill 44. So, you know, we're just looking to see if council can find an option here that would be suitable for my client to move forward and formalize their suite. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McKay. Can I ask Ms. Duong, on the bottom of page 11, it says the application for a short-term rental was deemed to be abandoned due to inactivity and was closed on April the 1st. Is that correct? In other words, they didn't pursue that and then came forward since then?
So that application that's referenced, it was actually a development variance permit application to reduce the parking for a secondary suite from 1 to 0 and for a short-term rental accommodation unit from 1 per sleeping unit also to 0. But yes, that one, that one was closed due to inactivity. So this is the new application.
Okay, and we've had several letters from various residents on the street who are quite concerned about this and are concerned that there could be more than one vehicle that would come to that. I mean, there might be 2 vehicles that would stay at the one residence. No, that doesn't have anything to do with it. In other words, it's 1 per bedroom. Am I correct?
Yeah, so the zoning bylaw sets out a minimum off-street parking requirement, right? So technically it doesn't cap how many parking spaces can technically be provided. It's really the site layout that ultimately ends up being the primary factor in how much parking can be provided.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has any questions or concerns? Go ahead, Councillor Pottery.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, Mr. Wong, hopefully. References here in one of the correspondence from one of the residents indicates in the plans that they provide. I know the application itself doesn't show the floor plan itself, but the one that they have provided makes reference to 2 suites in the basement. Is that correct? Or is it just one, the basement of the original suite and a secondary suite that was added on?
So there, to our understanding, so the secondary suite is located downstairs. There's also a recreation room and a bedroom. That area, I believe, is what's being referenced as another suite. However, it's not classified as a suite in accordance with the zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or concerns about this? Is there anyone that would like to make a motion then? Go ahead.
The representative makes a note that they believe they can fulfill the parking requirements despite the measurements saying that is not the case. How exactly would you be able to accommodate the parking requirements that are required?
May I? Yes. Thank you, Mayor McCordoff. Thank you, Councillor Cheong. Right now, along the street that you saw in the aerial photograph that Shannon provided, almost every vehicle that's parked on that street on the driveway is actually extending into the road right of way because the driveways aren't long enough to accommodate a vehicle entirely within what is their actual property lines. However, when you drive down the street, it looks like everybody's parking on their own property. So when I say they can accommodate it, that is what I'm referring to. They only have one suite. There isn't a second secondary suite on the property. So when I say they can accommodate it, you can park entirely on the driveway.
When I'm looking at this, there seems to be a sidewalk on the west side of the road, but not on the right side. Would that make a difference on how long their driveway was? Like, if there's a sidewalk there, that's not, go ahead, were you asking something else?
It's just a follow-up. So to clarify, they would be able to accommodate the additional parking space by impeding into the sidewalk then?
No, sorry, Councillor Cheong, not on the sidewalk. They're entirely within the paved portion or the driveway portion of the property. And the same thing happens across the street because the houses are set back 4.5 meters from the property line, but it's another 1 to 2 meters to the sidewalk. Because if you look at the aerial photograph, I'm not sure, I think it's included within your package. You can clearly see where other properties along the street where the trucks are extending across that property line and they're still on the driveway, but they're not impeding the sidewalk.
But go ahead.
And really just to almost hammer the point, if we were to calculate the length from including that portion that Ms. McKay is referring to on the driveway, would that fulfill the parking requirements by our bylaw?
Off the top of my head, I can't confirm that, but when it comes to our analysis from a planning perspective, we're looking at just what's within the actual property boundaries.
Well, thank you, Madam.
Councillor King.
Is there an actual sidewalk on both sides? Or
No,
just-
to my understanding, it's just on the west side.
I'll just take something here, just a comment. Thank you, Your Worship. I noticed in the original supporting information document, there's provided a copy that shows it's like a Toyota Tacoma parked in the driveway, showing sidewalk net impacted. It is on the edge. That is a fairly, I'd say, smaller to mid-sized pickup. I think we've had this conversation before, and I thank Mr. Kay for commenting. You know, we struggle with the fact that we drive larger vehicles now, and I appreciate the reference to that. You know, there's only 2 vehicle models that would currently fit on that in the current scope based on their size. But again, that is, I would say, a small average size pickup. My concern is, what if it is anything bigger? You know, it's, you know, not everyone drives a smaller vehicle, and you know, for us to consider, well, you know, even there, it is on the edge. I know we've tackled that, you know, and we've tried to address that issue in some of our other developments of, you know, the depth of parking stalls based on the land available, and I do struggle with this one.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess where I'm a little confused is we're talking, the original, I'm reading this and people are against it. There's going to be a suite downstairs, a suite upstairs, plus their living quarters. So there's going to be 3 cars and 3 suites. And there's not enough room to park 2 cars on there. Now we're talking about there's going to be room for 2 cars and there's only going to be 2 suites and both cars can fit on there. And why one party's saying 2 cars can fit on there, the other party's saying there's going to be 3 cars and they can't fit on there. So I'm a little confused of what really is what I'm looking at.
Shannon, can you answer that?
Yeah, so I think it might just be a potential misunderstanding of the actual plans themselves, because to our understanding, there's one single detached dwelling and it contains 1 suite. I understand that some representations have asserted that there are 2 suites on the property, but from our assessment of the floor plans, it does not appear that there are 2 secondary suites. There's just the one. So that would only be 2 parking spaces that are required.
Thank you. So if if there's only 2 and their agent is saying those cars can both park on there without being on the street, same as the other people, I don't know where the upset, why people are gonna have to park on the street. They can park on the road. Can they park in the drive? Is there enough room, or do they have to park on the street? That's where I'm confused.
I'm confused as well about whether you have to park on your property. There is not parking on the street, is my guess. Am I correct? Or are there places on the street where people can park as well?
So when we're doing these types of assessments, we're not assessing the street and its capacity for potential extra parking. What we're really looking at is the confines of the property boundaries itself. Can the minimum parking dimensions be actually met within the property boundaries? And in this particular circumstance, although the driveway actually extends past the property boundaries, the portion that's within the property boundaries is too short to accommodate a parking spot. So with that in mind, they cannot meet the minimum parking dimension requirements to pass the zone check.
And what happens if they come with a truck? Go ahead.
I think this is probably a better question for the representative again. What is the length of the driveway from sidewalk to?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cheong. The length of the driveway varies from 6 meters to 6.5 meters. The driveway, but as rightfully pointed out, the actual property is only 4.3 to 5 meters to 4.3 to 4.5 meters. And then you get to the property line. But, you know, when someone purchases the property, that's not what they're thinking when they pull in and they park their car. They don't realize that they're 1.5 meters into the road right of way. That is the actual reality. There is only 1 suite, by the way. I have been in that home.
And just to clarify, the minimum length requirement is 6 meters.
Yes, that's correct.
So we're in a situation where physically and practically speaking, the property does accommodate the minimum required length. It's just by the parcel dimensions, it does not. So really, if it is just 1 additional vehicle for this suite, there wouldn't be a need for street parking. I guess this is a very open-ended question. If anyone wants to answer it.
Yeah, thank you. I guess you can't quite micromanage it, but most people have 2 cars and the suite would have at least 1, so that makes 3 in my arithmetic. And I guess the home that's what the mix up of calling it a suite, that's really the house kind of residence, and then there's only one suite downstairs. But that's kind of the mix up with the terminology with calling it 2 suites. It's just 1 suite in the house. So they're asking for the variance to allow it because it doesn't comply with our bylaw, right? Yeah.
So they need accommodation for 3 vehicles, 2 in the garage and 1 in the driveway. No? Well, the homeowners would likely park in the garage, right? Not necessarily. I mean, if you've got a 2-car garage and you're a homeowner, you'd probably park in there, but maybe not if you had a boat or Sea-Doos or something. Wait, yes. I don't know. I think this one's pretty tricky. Anybody else got anything they would like to add? Go ahead, Johnny.
What's the width of the driveway?
That's a good question. I do not know that, but I do know that I have a photograph showing 3 cars parked in the driveway. So the interesting thing is you only need to have 2 parking spaces, 1 for the house and 1 for the suite. There's no requirement to have 1 for yourself and your partner, your spouse, your teenager. I mean, that's just the way the zoning bylaws are written. So you need 1 for the homeowner and 1 for the suite. 2 spaces. All the driveways along this street are really, really wide. And that is what prevents people from parking on the street. If you comply with the parking requirements in the traffic bylaw, you have to be 2 meters from a driveway entrance. So you cannot really park on this street. Interestingly enough, your bylaw also restricts people from parking overnight unless, for 24 hours unless they're parked directly in front of the homeowner's, your own property. You're not allowed to park in front of a neighbor's property for 24 hours.
And they likely couldn't anyway because the driveway takes up most of the property in front, so you couldn't park in front of somebody else's. Go ahead.
Further clarification, Your Worship, through you to Mr. Wong. I think earlier you made a comment that the width of the garage is not the right width for a 2-vehicle garage. Is that correct?
It's specifically the door. So when we are looking at zoning bylaw compliance with respect to the minimum parcel or parking space dimensions, when it comes to parking within a garage, we need to make sure that there's unobstructed access for the full width of that parking space, right? So if it's 2.7 meters for each parking stall in width, we'd be looking at a minimum width of the door actually being 5.4 meters. And I understand just looking at the previous building permit plans that the door is, I believe, just under 5 meters in width.
Council, go ahead. Go ahead, Councillor Bennett.
So basically, this was brought to council because people are concerned about cars are going to be parked all over the street from these suites. Now we're down to where there's a suite and 2 cars can park on their driveway, which is what that should be, and there's no other suites. So I don't know how I can vote against that to say, no, I can't allow these people to have that variance for their driveway when everybody else is kind of doing it. Unless I'm totally missing something. I could see it because I see a different story when I received this, and from all the neighbors, there was going to be 3 to 6 cars and there's going to be 3 suites. So maybe I don't know if we have to relook at it, or it's from what to start at to where it's at now is totally different.
When the subject property was built, was the length of the driveway surpassing the parcel limits? Was that not flagged?
So typically when a building permit application comes in, there would be an assessment of whether or not the property and the proposed use meets zoning requirements. So I've seen numerous circumstances where you can build a house quite close to the front parcel line setback, as long as the rest of the development itself actually accommodates the parking requirements as needed. So it's not to say that if you build a house closer than 6 meters to the front parcel line setback or the front parcel line that you can't find parking anywhere else. It's that it could be accommodated perhaps within a double car garage, as long as it's still designed to accommodate that. However, I believe in this case, this is really a formalization of something that was constructed. So at the time then that the secondary suite was constructed, because it was never brought in as a formal building permit application, we would have never been able to check it. So we're kind of dealing with it after the fact.
Maybe, just a thought here. I'm just trying to find some imagery of that street that kind of gives a bit more clarification. There'll be number 2, number 4, number 10, or sorry, 2, 4, and 4, 2, 8, 10, 12, Chardonnay all have those narrow depths. And, the properties to the west or east side are notably longer. So I support the arguments we made that, we're in a bit of a technicality here. There's a bit of overhang. Notably, this property is one of the most narrowest, or the depth of the driveway is probably the narrowest, and the way the curb sits on that angle there, it really challenges the limitations of the design of the street for how you can park. Like again, I reflect just small vehicles, there's large vehicles, but I'm worried about making an exemption to one, knowing that there's other challenges in some of the other properties on that street.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm concerned about allowing this and then finding out that, that there's somebody arrives to stay overnight, has a truck and a trailer or a camper or a boat or something, and that I'm not sure that you can say when you have a rental on this, by the way, your car can only be X number of feet long and you cannot bring a trailer or a boat or anything with it. There's no room to park. I don't know whether that's a possibility of adding that on to if you were renting out a suite. I don't know whether that's allowed or not. But it does concern me because I think that once you allow that and there's more cars on the street, that there's going to be real problems. So I'm tempted not to approve this, but that would be just me. Go ahead.
And although like all the previously stated opinions are very valid, I run into the friction where although the parcel line, the parcel lot and dimensions technically make it so that this is non-conforming, when you are on the actual property, the length of the driveway is practically 6 meters and does align with the spirit of our bylaw. I would ask if we can get our planning staff to visit the site physically and maybe measure out that driveway to make sure that it aligns with the bylaw and that we can confirm that there wouldn't be imposition of street parking, etc., to the surrounding neighbors and area as well before, and then maybe coming back with an update, and then we can make a better decision with all the information.
Yeah, I kind of disagree a little bit. I mean, we've already been presented, it's outside our bylaw. I'm sure the pictures are valid with the measurements. So I don't really see a need to go out physically and take a tape out there. My question would be though, there's other suites in that cul-de-sac, my understanding?
I'm not sure. I haven't done any sort of comprehensive review of any of the other properties.
Would you know? Would the speaker know?
That wouldn't be fair to ask. Yeah.
No, but I can't speak to
Um,
that.
But I tend to agree with Councillor Cheong that perhaps we could have a little bit better look at this so that we are not deciding on this today, because there seem to be enough concerns about all of this that I would recommend that we have a look at some of the concerns that we have and come back at another meeting. Would that be acceptable? Is there somebody who would? So Johnny's made that.
So we should have a motion to postpone pending further information about the driveway dimensions.
Moving that. Is there somebody seconding it? Thank you. Councillor Potterick is seconding that. I'll call a question. All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. McKay. Thank you, Ms. Duong. Yes, that's a tricky one for sure. All right, next, we will look at waste collection contract amendment. And that would be Mr. Madsen.
Thank you, Mayor. So just a bit of a recap. In the fall of 2023, the town of Osoyoos participated in, or with other communities in the region, in a request for proposal for waste collection services throughout the region. The other towns included Penticton, Oliver, Summerland, Karamias, and the RDOS. The RFP for the waste collection services was awarded to Waste Connections of Canada. The differences on when they all expired with the rest of the region was in June 30th or on June 30th, 2025. Town of Osoyoos was 2026. Fast forward to last month, just before the termination of that contract, we just got an extension to work with Waste Connections to get through sort of a more formalized extension to the agreement. They provided the attached draft third amendment to the agreement, which is fairly simple and it just changes a little bit of the language. But the highlights of that are extending the term to June 30th, 2032, which aligns with the rest of the region. It does provide us with some basic contamination monitoring for our recycled materials. If we want to go beyond the basic software package that they have, that would be something we need to negotiate with the vendor for the software directly. They just have a basic model of that. And then limiting the unlimited yard and garden waste collection to 2 events per year. That's two-week events, I guess, is what they've clarified. And to keep the cost down overall to the people in town who don't use that service, we would switch the rest to sort of a tag-a-bag service so that if you wanted to put extra craft bags out, you would come to town hall or something, get a tag, put it on the bag, and then they would pick it up that way. Beyond that, I've also included the annual rate increases, which are detailed in the report, and it is in line with what we've put forward on the budget this last year. So other than that, there's no other changes to the agreement. The service will continue as it has for the last number of years.
Thank you. So sitting on the RDOS table, I definitely agree that we should be in sync with the rest of them. Makes it much easier when we're talking about contracts and purchasing equipment. It can all be done at once and there's a cost saving to that. So I'm definitely in favor of being in sync with the others. I'm wondering about now that they pick up the carts, at what point is it just the 2 times in a year that they will pick up the extra bags? Because they don't get out of the vehicle to pick up the tag. So how do they deal with that except on those special days, Mike?
My understanding is that's the purpose of the fee for when they go and pick up the bag, is that sort of covers their cost to jump out of the vehicle and grab the bag for those one-offs that actually use it.
That I was just checking on that. Sure, go ahead.
Clarity on that, though. If I pick up a sticker from town, I can put out the wastebasket and the bag any time of the year.
I don't think so.
For yard waste specifically?
Yeah, from my home.
Yes. So throughout the year, that would be the intent. If you had extra bags throughout the year, you'd put the sticker on the. Correct. The 2 times is just for the unlimited. So if you can hold on to your yard waste for those events, you could do that and not use a tag bag.
That's interesting because on my street, if somebody puts out a bag, now mind you, I'm in area A, so not in the town, but they do not pick up the bags if they're not in the bin. So that's why I was checking with that. So is it? No, because that still means they have to get out and pick it up and they don't do that. And that's why I wondered if it's just on those 2 specific days where you can put out extra, or there might be more than 2. I'm not sure, but I thought it's very few. Am I correct on that? Could we check to make sure that makes sense? Because I don't think you can put out a bag anytime you want.
I think the intent of my discussions was that the rest, other than those events, the tag a bag system would be for the rest of the year that we could put it out.
Oh.
Because we do have some residents in
Okay.
town that
That's different than us then?
Rod and I both have neighbors that put out bags, I believe.
Sorry,
And, sorry,
Councillor Appleby, we just need to keep this within the
Okay, well, that's-
council.
yeah. We're talking about not in town, and you're quite right. So if that's happened in town and they will pick those up, then yeah, that's okay. I just know it doesn't happen in area A. So, okay, no problem. If that works and they come in and pick up a tag, they can do that. Go ahead.
Thank you. Item number 4, large item service, which is $2.42 per residence per event. Could you clarify what that entails in terms of what item, how large, like what specifics are there?
So, through your worship, Councillor Cheong, that's our large item pickup that we usually host in the spring. So at this point, it's anything like a mattress. You can put out, at this point, we have 2 items you can put out and then they go around and collect that. So that's going to continue. I'd also,
It's only once a year though, and
Yes.
it cannot include refrigerators or freezers. So I think it's on your notice that you get.
Yes,
It's quite specific.
I also want to clarify that one event, as it states in the contract, is actually 2 pickups. So it'll be 1 week of yard waste, it'll be unlimited, and then the next week will be unlimited. Director Madsen did clarify that one event is actually 2 pickups. So we're actually going to get 4 unlimited yard waste pickups in the year. The wording's a bit foggy in that aspect.
Anyway, when you send out the notices, there is a very good paper that goes along with it, explains it all. Okay, fair enough. So what we're looking at then is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to move option 1.
Oh, okay. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, good. We are on to Osoyoos participation in RDOS Environmental Conservation Service. Mrs. Coulson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Since 2016, the South Okanagan Conservation Fund has been supported by the RDOS areas A, C, D, E, and F, and the City of Penticton, District of Summerland, and the Town of Oliver through an RDOS service bylaw, which includes contributing up to $450,000 annually to support the environmental conservation initiatives in the region. On October 28, 2025, following a presentation from the South Okanagan Conservation Fund, Council resolved to contribute towards the fund commencing in 2027. It is expected that Osoyoos' annual contribution will be approximately $45,000, but it will change a little bit each year depending on property values. The recommendation for council today is to consent to the amendment of RDOS Environmental Conservation Service Establishment Bylaw number 2690 to add the town of Osoyoos to the boundaries of the service area.
Thank you very much. Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. What's the pros and cons if we didn't join this?
The annual amount contributed would be the same for the region. It's just that the other areas that are participating would continue to pay a little bit more. When we come onto the service area, it brings down everybody else's contribution a tiny bit. But it also allows the town of Osoyoos to participate in these environmental conservation initiatives, which is, I would think, definitely a benefit.
For the last 10 years, I have been the one at the regional district, which I cannot participate in that. I see what's happening, but I can't because the council at the time voted that I could not vote for it, which I did originally, and then they made me take it back. So I definitely feel that this is a really positive step. Everybody else is contributing to this. We get the benefit sometime, but we just don't pay into it. So I'm very much in favor of adding this. Go ahead.
I'll just move option 1.
Councillor Poderica is seconding that. I'll call the question. All in favor? Against? No? Okay, thank you. The Interagency Funding and Collaboration Agreement, Mrs. Coulson.
Thank you, Your Worship. A little bit of history. In 2024, the Administrative Emergency Management and Climate Readiness established the Indigenous Engagement Requirements Funding Program, allowing local governments to receive $40,000 in 2024 and $42,000 in 2025 in grant funding. And the grant funding was meant to undertake activities with Indigenous bodies like capacity building, relationship development, and collaborative emergency planning initiatives. The collaboration agreement that we are looking at today allocates $30,000 from existing grant funding received by 3 participating local governments, that being the town of Osoyoos, town of Oliver, and RDOS. And the town of Osoyoos is responsible for providing $10,000 to this particular initiative. So the report recommendation today is for council to approve Osoyoos' involvement in the agreement and the contribution of $10,000 of our grant funding.
Thank you. Did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just clarity, I support it, but is it like supporting the 10,000 because we go to some meeting to discuss it?
The $10,000 would be to help pay for those meetings to be organized. And so if we had to rent a room and also out of those meetings may come individual initiatives that require some funding as well. So it's just supporting, moving in that direction. And the primary focus would be on collaborative emergency management planning initiatives.
So we have been doing that for quite a while with the C2C. And so that money has obviously come from one of these grants as well, right?
For sure. This particular stream of grant funding is focused mostly on emergency management.
Okay.
So would
Yep.
this be something the fire chief would most likely attend?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, is there somebody who would like to make the recommendation, please? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Cheong, all in favor? You didn't have your hand up fast enough. Thank you. And Mr. Wong, various land use bylaw amendments. We're looking for the adoption today. We've spoken about this many times, but I think we'll just let you add a few words first.
So I don't have a presentation for this, but yes, so council did give third reading to official community plan amendment bylaw number 1375.11, as well as zoning amendment bylaw number 1395.12 back on June 23rd, 2026. Ministry of Transportation and Transit sign off on this was required, and we did obtain that on June 29th. So at this time, we are asking for council's direction.
Thank you. Is there anybody who would like to move the adoption of these amendments? Thank you. Councillor Cheong, Councillor King, all in favor. Thank you very much. And is that it? Okay, so we will look for reports from the Committee of the Whole from July the 21st that Council approved the amended purchase policy as presented. Could we have a motion, please? Thank you. Councillor Poderica, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you very much. And now we will ask for the CAO report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Starting with community services in the administration area, the Sun Bowl Arena roof RFP has been advertised. The closing day is July 24th. A site meeting was held on July 7th and 4 contractors attended. In the Sonora Community Center, the Cactus Kids day camp started on July 6th, and registration varies between 35 and 47 kids each week. That's awesome. In the Sun Bowl, the refrigeration plant is starting up on July 15th, or did start up on July 15th, and the ice painting will be taking place this week along with the painting of the logos and the lines. On July 14th, the start of the construction for the cricket patch, or the cricket pitch, I should say, took place at Desert Park. In corporate services, bylaw enforcement officers have been gaining compliance through ticketing with parking issues at the boat trailer parking lot, near hydrants and crosswalks, and at the pickleball courts. Officers have also been patrolling the parks, looking for individuals camping and issuing tickets for watering at times when it's restricted. Just to clarify, we're not issuing tickets to individuals camping. We usually look to assist them if they need any support.
You'll have to speak up a little, please.
Okay, thank you. As a follow-up to the cemetery master plan recommendations, a new 48 niche columbarium has been ordered in the amount of $41,207, and it should be in place by November. In the communications area, Facebook now has 840 followers, and there were 42,000 page views since the last report on June 23rd. The top posts that were viewed on Facebook were the spill update, 12,000 views, water quality advisory, and the response to the wildfire on Anarchist Mountain. The parking survey on our website received over 400 responses in the first 48 hours. So we are very pleased to receive that kind of feedback from the public. In the planning and development services area, we've got 4 business licenses that have changed, not necessarily new. The Quirky Quail has changed locations. Magnolia Guest House is a bed and breakfast, that is new. Desert Speed Heritage Society has received an administrative business license for the vehicle storage, and Kayleigh Fruit Stand has had a business license reissued. There were 12 building permits issued during the month of June, comprised of 406,000 in residential building and 588,000 in commercial building. And finally, for planning, there has been an uptick in the amount of people asking questions about development applications, especially multifamily developments. In the finance area, finance is preparing for the Q3 utility billing, which will be issued mid-August with a due date at the end of September. The 2027 budgeting process is now underway, with departmental meetings scheduled to begin formally in August. Now that water meter installation is virtually complete, water conservation and consumption remains a key focus for the finance department. As I mentioned this morning, the new Neptune 360 portal will be available shortly for residents to monitor their daily consumption online. In the fire department, on July 15th, the fire department was one of 2 agencies in the Okanagan region that was requested to place firefighting resources on dedicated standby for our area. After careful consideration of our own needs, the fire department was able to accommodate BC Wildfire's request, and since then our members have been deployed to assist with combating fires within our zone. Also for the fire department, work has begun on updating the evacuation plan for the town of Osoyoos and the surrounding region. Partnering with the RDOS once again on emergency measures, this particular project is being led by MNP and is funded through UBCM grant funds. The deliverable for Osoyoos will be a distinct community-specific plan that reflects the unique hazards, infrastructure constraints, demographic realities, and egress limitations of our community. And finally, in operational services, the Quail Place reconstruction project has reached substantial completion, and the contractor is now cleaning up the project. The storage pond number 2 liner at the town's lagoons was damaged, and it has now been successfully repaired by the operations team and an external contractor. Both storage ponds are now back into full capacity. And finally, just to touch on the water advisory, Interior Health, as we know, placed the town's domestic water system on an advisory due to increased manganese levels in some of our wells. This is not an issue that can be resolved quickly. It is a naturally occurring element. The team in utilities is working hard to resolve the issue by working with Interior Health and taking their advice. And we have increased the manganese sampling in the system to a weekly schedule and are just working with Interior Health until we can drop the advisory, which I have to caution could be a while, as it is a naturally occurring element. There's not an awful lot we can do about it until we have a treatment plan.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Coulson. Could we please have a motion to receive the CIO report for information? Councillor King, Councillor Bennett, all in favor. Thank you. Okay, council reports. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No report this week.
Thank you. Councillor Cheong.
Thank you. On, what was that? Oh yeah, on June 25th, attended the Childcare Advisory Committee with Director Davis. It was a really great opportunity to have conversation with multiple members who contribute to our childcare needs. And also we went through the report, and there are a few surprises, but we have more boots on the ground information, which is the purpose of this committee. Oftentimes we have contractors that come in and build these elaborate surveys, but there is, ground level knowledge that arguably could be as, if not more, useful. So we're taking further steps, and probably going to be coming forward with a few recommendations that can really assist with our needs. Yeah, and that concludes my report.
Good, thank you. And you provided a lot of information for a Castanet article, so that was very good too on the new childcare.
Yes, by which they only took like 10% of what I gave them.
Oh, well, that's all right. Thank you. Councillor Poderica.
Thank you, Your Worship. July 1st, attended with all the council. Sherry Fiesta, always a great day, great week. Awesome turnout for the parade. Special thanks, of course, to Osoyoos Festival Society's Rotary, our first responders who made sure that this community remained safe throughout the weekend, as well as the businesses and the residents that take place. It's always my favorite day of the year, as well as many. Just overall a really good day. Thanks to everyone there for that. And then July 4th, attended the Transportation Master Plan's community pop-up event at the farmers market with Urban Systems. Special thanks to their staff for being there and taking feedback from residents on the master plan. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess as Councillor Puerto Rican mentioned, Canada Day, the big event. Words can't say enough for the committee that puts that on. It's just another great event. Thousands of people in town. So again, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I will start by on June the 25th. I attended graduation ceremonies at Osoyoos Secondary School, and provided the towns 3 bursaries of $1,500 to 3 worthy students. I was absolutely amazed at the number of students that got wonderful awards. A total for, I think there was 45 students in the grad class. $110,000 was provided for those students. A few of them didn't get any awards, and that's too bad because there were lots, but maybe they didn't apply. But several people got a lot of awards. I have to say that the Legion I believe they gave out either 10 or 12 awards of $2,000 each. And I do know that the graduates had to apply for those and go and do an interview with the Legion. And I think that's a really good plan. So if you wanted one of those, you had to go and interview with them. Anyway, it was pretty phenomenal to see how well the students had done, how well they spoke, how well they obviously deserved these awards. So it was always, I've been to grad for many, many years, and I'm always so impressed. July the 1st was a pretty amazing day, and we certainly thank everybody that's involved, our town staff, our bylaw, who 3 of them were out at 10 o'clock at night because I was there as well. We were cleaning up after the fireworks. And there were lots and lots of people that appreciated what had happened. And I certainly thank the fire department for Osoyoos Fire Rescue for all the work they did in putting together a safe fireworks for the town. Osoyoos Festival Society does an amazing job of organizing this event. And so I just want to thank everybody that was involved. We are having a town meeting tomorrow morning to go through the event and pick up on anything that might need to be adjusted for next year. There are always, and I've been doing this for 40 years, there are always things that we think we're going to do differently, and then the next year there's something else that gets added to it. So it's an ongoing event. June the 27th, I went down to Orville for the day, and well, for the morning, because their farmers market down there has they invited me, the mayor did, because they have Canada Day, and I took down some flags for them, and they're very appreciative of having a respectful relationship. Orville and Osoyoos have always had a very good relationship, and we continue to do that. So I was happy to attend that. And then I took a much needed holiday down to San Diego to visit my grandchildren for a couple of weeks. And I did go to a pool party on July the 4th, because that's when I arrived, and everybody was wearing red, white, and blue. And there were cupcakes and all kinds of things that only the Americans can do in a wilder fashion than we can. Anyway, it was a good holiday for me, and it was great to see my family down there. And I returned yesterday just in time to come to this meeting. So that is my report, and I will now read the in-camera part that pursuant to Section 91 of the Community Charter, a part of the council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to one or more of the following: 91G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality; 91J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under Section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. So could I have a motion to go in camera, please? Councillor